Welcome to the ODPP Cafe. A very warm welcome to you. Thank you for joining us from wherever you are. My name is Anita Onuko. I'm your host for the show. The show is brought to you by the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution, and we come to you to teach you about the law so that you know what to do, whether in contact or in conflict with the law. The show is meant to sensitize you, to inform you, and to educate you about matters in the criminal justice system. We are live on Facebook at the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions, Kenya. We are also on Twitter at ODPP_KE, and we are on YouTube at the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution. We welcome you to follow our channels. We welcome you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We welcome you to engage on us on the comment section. You can ask questions. You can also make comments, and we will definitely be glad to respond to you as much as we can. So thank you once again, and we welcome you, and you are also invited, you are also allowed to invite a friend. As always, we start with the cases from the courts, just highlights from what has been happening in the courts. And of course, it's not everything, just a bit of it. And I just start on right now with the case of the Family Bank CEO. So a Nairobi court has ruled that former Family Bank CEO Peter Munyiri has a case to answer for failing to report suspicious transactions in the 791 million Kenya shillings 791 million NYS money laundering case. Chief Magistrate Francis Andai in his ruling said that only 4 suspects among the 6 who were charged were found with a case to answer. So court rules ex-Family Bank CEO Peter Munyiri has a case to answer in the NYS scandal. So Mr. Munyiri, who is aspiring to be the next Nyeri County Governor, I laugh because this forms part of our discussion today, was charged alongside other 6 senior bank employees for not reporting suspicious bank transactions carried out by the main NYS scandal suspect, Josephine Kafura. Section 44 of the Proceeds of Crime and Anti-Money Laundering Act requires that transactions of that nature be reported to the FRC immediately within 7 days of activity considered, for any activity considered to be suspicious. So court rules that Peter Munyiri has a case to answer. And I think I'm going to start that with, I'm going to have that start our discussion today. The next case we're looking at is about 2 minors, 17 and 15-year-olds, were during the weekend arrested as they tried to sneak in several rolls of bang into the industrial area remand and allocation, the remand area in Nairobi. The girls had gone to the facility posing as relatives of a prisoner in the facility and wanted to deliver him some food and clothes. It was then when the officials at the facility searched their luggage and found that they had carried bang. So 2 minors were caught smuggling bang at the industrial area remand prison. Quite unfortunate. They were interrogated and later handed over to the police for processing. Police handling the case say they want to establish if the girls were sent by someone known to them to deliver the cargo, and so the girls are awaiting arraignment. So the next case is one that took place in Nakuru. A 39-year-old man was beaten to death by a local brewer after a disagreement over lost money at Arorwet village in Nakuru. Stanley Singwei is said to have visited the local joint on Monday afternoon to grab a drink with the brewer, whom authorities identified as Sheila Langat. So this is a case about a woman, her husband, and a son who were arrested after beating a man to death in Nakuru. The two reportedly got into a quarrel when he noticed that 23,500, which he had earlier put in one of his pockets, was missing. The woman enlisted the help of her husband and their 17-year-old son. Then together they hacked Singwei on the head to death using a machete. Police have since arrested the 3 and taken them into custody pending arraignment. The next story is about the JKUAT student who was killed. 3 suspects were arrested in connection with the murder of Joel Juma, a JKUAT student, and are held at the Juja police station for 14 days pending investigations. So if you remember that case, the 3, Joseph Ndongo, Kefa Mwaniki, and Paul Mbadha, were arraigned at the Thika Law Courts, and the judge ruled that they remain in police custody until May 5th, 2022. So 3 suspects linked to the murder of the JKUAT students have been arrested, and they are in police waiting for their case to be processed. So they appeared before the resident magistrate Oscar Wanyaga on Thursday. The investigating officer, Peter Kaibiro, sought more days to complete probe into the incident. The deceased, a fourth-year industrial chemistry student, is said to have been stabbed twice in the chest and stomach in the wee hours of Tuesday at around 2 a.m. when he and his girlfriend went to borrow exam revision materials from a colleague. So the suspects have been detained for 14 days as investigations continue. And finally, a story that elicited a lot of reactions online. The Office of the Director of Public Prosecution directed that cases dealing with the SGBV, sexual and gender-based violence, terrorism and terror financing, and of course other election-related offenses be prioritized ahead of the general election. The DPP said that the strategy will help the ODPP devote their resources and time to cases that directly impact elections. He, however, added that prosecuting leaders suspected of corruption will not bar them from campaigning. Again, part of our discussion today, like I alluded earlier, and we'll just get right into it in a few minutes. So gender violence, terrorism cases to be prioritized ahead of polls, and of course, hate speech and other related election offenses. He further challenged voters to look into aspirants whose cases are still under investigation or in court, or those who have been named by ESCC, and make informed decisions on the ballot. And that sort of leads us into our discussion for today, ladies and gentlemen. So we are in the season for elections, and we are sort of looking at who to elect to manage our national resources. And so when we look at this, the issue of corruption comes up. And the DPP has been quoted not once, not twice in the last week or two, saying that he has suspended, for now, prosecuting those who are charged with corruption, especially those who are campaigning. And his reason was that to avoid making the fight against corruption a campaign tool, and also to prioritize other election-related offenses. Because according to the DPP, unless you're convicted for 6 months and above, then nothing stops you from vying. And that is what you're seeing right now. As you can see, the first case we mentioned in the court highlights was one of Peter Munyiri, the former Family Bank CEO, who is currently vying for a position, but has a case to answer. The law does not stop him. He can still vie as his case continues. So the DPP, because of that, said, let us prioritize election-related offenses, and we'll pick up with these corruption cases later. But that is not even this. That is just part of the story today. So as we start our discussion today, I want to introduce two gentlemen, experts, and of course, they are the ones who are going to tell us. I'm speaking from a very civilian perspective, and of course, we have a lawyer and an expert from ESCC, and I want to invite them to now introduce themselves and tell us who they are. I know you've met them, you've seen them elsewhere, but who they are and what they do, and of course, then we can get into discussing integrity and elections, and of course, the role of ODPP, the role of ESCC, and the role of you and I as citizens in the fight against corruption as we are now in the season for elections. IEBC sent their apologies. They really wanted to be here for this discussion, but they're held up on official duties. So karibu sana and join us in the discussion. So I'll start with the visitor. Karibu sana.
Thank you, Anita, and good morning all. My name is John Lolkoloi. I'm Director Ethics and Leadership at Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. Yes.
Karibu sana to the show.
Thank you.
At least now we get to understand what ethics is in a bit.
Yes.
Karibu sana, Mr. Mwile. Not new to the show?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm Victor Mwile, Acting Deputy Director of Public Prosecutions. I'm in charge of County Affairs and Prosecution Services.
Okay.
Thank you.
Karibu sana to the show once again. So we'll just get right into it, Mr. Lokoloi. What is ethics?
Thank you, Anita. Ethics, we can say, is a system of moral principles. That is a basic definition. But I think it will be good for us to look at ethics in terms of our legislation and to inform viewers that we have a legislation called Public Officers Ethics Act, which is actually an act that defines some of the principles that public officers are supposed to adhere to. They include professionalism when they discharge their duties, issues of protecting public resources, taking care of public property, treating members of public with courtesy and respect, ensuring that they do not plunder public resources, they do not enter into issues of conflict of interest. Now, when we go to Leadership and Integrity Act, Again, you find principles that are more or less the same as what we are calling ethics, because we call them ethics and moral principles. They include aspects like conducting public duties with a lot of dishonesty, ensuring that you do not abuse the office that you have, you do not misrepresent information to the public, you do not falsify records, and you do not engage in personal enrichment while you are serving in the public. So ethics are actually those principles that public officers are supposed to follow. We've put them in those laws, Public Officer Ethics Act. They are in the Leadership and Integrity Act. And when you find state officers, when they are also required to sign the specific leadership and integrity codes, those are actually the ethical principles they are supposed to follow to ensure that they are professional, they ensure that they discharge their duties with accountability, with a lot of integrity, and to ensure that they avoid situations of conflict of interest, they do not trade with the organizations that they work with, and basically to ensure that they take care of the resources and they conduct themselves with utmost professionalism and integrity.
Okay.
Yes.
So public officers, you could mean people running for office right now?
They include people who are running for public office. They include those who work for public entities.
Okay.
Yes, both public officers and state officers.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Mr. Mule, Chapter 6 of the Constitution, and here's when I say I'm not a lawyer. But then what was the spirit behind Chapter 6 of the Constitution? And what is the mandate of the ODPP in as far as Chapter 6 of the Constitution is concerned?
Yeah, thank you very much. Chapter 6 of the Constitution is entitled Leadership and Integrity. And it provides the guiding principles on leadership and integrity. And there are 5 principles which are set out in Chapter 6. The first one, of course, is if it is an election, like where we are, you are elected in a fair and free election process. If it's a selection process for another office, it may be a public office or a state office, you are selected on account of your suitability, personal integrity, and competence. The third principle, which is provided for under, is objectivity and impartiality in decision making, such that your decisions are not based on nepotism, relationism, and all those favoritism and all that. Then the last principle is accountability and transparency in decisions made and actions taken by the public officer. That is the basic the basic spirit of Chapter 6,
Chapter 6.
to set out the guiding principles.
Yeah.
The chapter also sets out provides that Parliament would enact legislation on leadership and integrity. And this has been done through the enactment of the Leadership and Integrity Act. This has also been done through the enactment and repeal or amendment of other laws. For instance, the establishments of the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, which provides for, amongst other things, offenses and the penalties there. And then also the commission, where Mr. Rokolo works, which now is supposed to implement Chapter 6 and the Leadership and Integrity Act. So that is, it's a guiding principle. From Chapter 6, there are other laws now which are enforced now to implement Chapter 6. For instance, the Anti-Corruption Act, the Anti-Corruption and Economic Crimes Act, the Penal Code, the Procurement Act, and all those laws, from which all state officers and the public officers are supposed to abide by, in accordance with the principles I have set up.
So what role does the ODPP play in as far as Chapter 6 is concerned?
The ODPP is an implementing agency. We are a prosecuting agency. And prosecution has got a role. And the main role of prosecution is twofold. One, ensure victims get justice. And two, it is for deterrence. If you prosecute somebody, other people will be deterred from committing similar crimes. So the ODPP is an implementing agency by exercising the state powers of prosecution.
So when you talk about deterrent, and now in the season that we are in right now for elections, has Chapter 6 really acted as a deterrent for those who are running for office and have been accused or are in the process of investigation? They're being investigated for corruption. Has it acted as a deterrent?
Well, as they always say, the law is whatever it is,
Yes, yes,
and the law states that one is not barred from contesting in an elective post unless he has been convicted for an imprisonment term of over 6 months at the time of registration as a candidate or at the time of the general election. So currently we are doing registration of the candidates.
Yes.
So if a person has not been imprisoned for over 6 months, they are not barred.
They can run.
They can run, they can contest.
Yeah.
At the time of elections on 9th August, if a candidate will not have been convicted for an imprisonment term of over 6 months, they can still be in the ballot box. So it's upon, that calls upon the citizens. The citizens are the ones who will elect these leaders. It's upon them now, when they are exercising their sovereign power, to elect the leaders through the secret ballot, the leaders who have got integrity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then there's perception that that statement of Sasani, it's your turn, the citizens to elect leaders with integrity. There's a lot of discussion that says now you've thrown the button, you've stopped working, you've let the citizens, they are now on their own. What can be done? I mean, why do people feel like they are on their own at this moment? Because when the DPP made the statement, a lot of people said, ametuacha, tuko peke yetu. So what can you say about that?
Let me put it clear. The ODPP is working. And I'll repeat that. The ODPP is working. We have not stopped working. We are prosecuting. We are initiating cases in court. Commit a crime now and you will be in court this afternoon, taking plea, so long as we have sufficient evidence. So the ODPP, we have not let the country on its own. We are working. We are prosecuting. Cases are proceeding. It has been, even next week we have cases, let me not mention that they are in court, involving a governor. I know there's a case which is proceeding involving a governor. There are 2 cases, and corruption cases proceeding.
But that
involving
doesn't stop them from running.
They have not been convicted. The law provides until they are convicted for an imprisonment term.
Of 6 months.
Yeah, so they can still contest. So we have not, and let me say, as an office, we face a lot of challenges. And one of the challenges we face is politicization of cases. If we take anybody to court, the race, the tribe from which he comes from will say, Mtuetu. The political party he comes with is being prosecuted because he belongs to this political party, or he's on this side of the political divide, as it were. And I saw it even in the news last night, that somebody said, I am being investigated because I am supporting this political side. I will not quote the person, I will not quote but somebody said in the news yesterday, it's a matter being investigated by the DCI. The DCI is doing their work. They bring the file to us. We will make the decision whether or not there is a prosecutable case. And we will not be guided by the fact that this person belongs to this political divide or this one. We take into account the sufficiency of evidence, nothing else. And then, sorry, I'll come to you in a bit, Mr. John. There's also the story that decision not to prosecute corruption cases at this moment, munatafuta watu mwizi wa kuku ndio anaonewa, the poor and those who are downtrodden, the people who cannot, they have not, are the ones who are now being prosecuted. Is that true? It is not true, and this show is live. And I want whoever has got a case which has not been taken to court during this period to post it there, and we'll answer specifically about it. There is no single example which you can say the office of the DPP has refused to take to court, and that we are only taking chicken thieves to court. There is not a single one, and I can say that without
it's important to clarify, because a lot of discussion was online saying, first of all, it was saying it is open season for all crimes, the DPP is not working, and then 2, mwizi wa kuku ndiye anapelekwa, sio wale wakubwa, si wadosi.
I will repeat. Commit a crime this morning. At 2,
yeah.
you will be taking plea if we have sufficient evidence. If we get a complete investigation file from an investigating agency, you will be in court at 2.
Yeah.
Today.
Okay.
Not tomorrow.
Not tomorrow, today.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. Mr. John, just tell us a bit about the mandate of the EACC as far as Chapter 6 is concerned. What can you do? What can you not do?
Yeah, thank you very much. Under Article 79 of the Constitution, that is where Parliament was supposed to enact legislation to establish an independent ethics and anti-corruption commission, which they did.
Yeah. And
specifically in that article, it says it shall ensure compliance and enforcement of Chapter 6. And Chapter 6, just like Mr. Mule has stated, there are those guiding principles of Chapter 6, guiding principles of leadership and integrity, like he has mentioned. Appointment on the basis of personal integrity, suitability, election in free and fair election, accountability, objectivity, selfless service, all that. So for EACC, there are certain tasks that we undertake to ensure compliance with Chapter 6. One of it is integrity vetting, both for appointive and elective positions. For quite some time now, institutions, when they advertise, you will always see they say clearance from EACC. So for appointive positions, public officers are supposed to fill a self-declaration under the first schedule of Leadership and Integrity Act, where they state all their information, general information, and there are those questions on ethics and morality, where they are being asked, have you ever abused a state office? Have you been charged? Have you falsified records? All that. And once these organizations shortlist candidates, they write to us and then we give them the reports. We can tell them that so-and-so is under investigation, it's been adversely mentioned. We can tell them that so-and-so is in court, actually facing corruption or economic crimes cases, or even has been convicted. Now, when it comes to the elective position, this is where there is a bit of a challenge. Yes. Because the law, the way it was crafted, it says that for an elective position, the self-declaration will be made to the IEBC. It's not to EACC. Okay. It is to IEBC. All right. But the schedule is under Leadership and Integrity Act. But as a commission, we've always kept copies of those declarations. They also answer the same questions. And just to go back to 2017 general election, what IEBC did was that they gave us a list of about 16,000 candidates who are vying for several positions. We went into our data. 16,000 for both president, deputy president, all MCAs, levels, all levels, members of parliament. So out of that list, from the data that we had, we were able to flag about 106 candidates who had integrity issues. Some were adversely mentioned, some were facing cases in court. We gave them to IEBC because they are the ones who have the sole mandate to either clear somebody or not clear, notwithstanding the provisions of the law that Mr. Mule has quoted. So they were cleared. So even as we go to this general election,
106 were still cleared.
They were still cleared. I think they were only not able to clear only 2. Okay. And I think it's because of the provisions of the law that either you're serving an imprisonment of 6 months or you have exhausted all the appeal procedures. That is what Article 99 and 193 of the Constitution says. Yes. First of all, it says that you'll be disqualified if you have abused or misused a state or public office, or in any way you have contravened Chapter 6. That is one of the disqualifications. Okay. But down there at 99.3, it says you will not be disqualified unless you have exhausted all the appeal procedures. Okay. So I think based on...
So the law is very kind.
The law, the law will...
Is that the right word to use?
The law will tell you how somebody should be disqualified, but down there again now it's like it will give somebody all the leeway. You've been convicted in a magistrate court, like we have members of parliament who have been convicted. They have gone to the High Court. So if you read that Article 99, they have still not exhausted the appeal procedures.
So they are still...
but that will be the sole mandate of the IEBC. So let me talk about EACC.
Okay.
So even as we go to this...
They are with us in spirit.
Yes. So even as we go to this general election, we've started working with them And we've requested that once they have the list of all the candidates who are gazetted, they give us that information so that we can look at what we have and then we can give them the information. Because under the EACC Act, one of our mandate is that even on our own volition, we can advise any person on any matter which is within our mandate. Now, Chapter 6 is within our mandate, issues of integrity. So there's that issue of clearance of candidates, at least to provide the information. Some of the things that we do also to enforce Chapter 6 are to help public entities to develop and approve their leadership and integrity codes, so that all state officers actually sign to those codes. They commit themselves to be professional, they commit to be accountable, they commit not to misuse resources, not to enter into...
So state officers in this case means what?
State officers...
Civil servants?
Yeah, there are different categories, like all elective positions from MCS as state officers, cabinet secretaries, principal secretaries, all those higher cadres. So they subscribe to those codes. So we help them to do that. Some of the other issues that we do as EACC, under Leadership and Integrity Act, public officers are not supposed to operate bank accounts without authority of EACC. So we also process those requests.
Personal bank accounts?
Yeah, bank accounts. Because the issue is, it is supposed to deter them, the resources that they plunder, and then they take the money abroad. So once we are aware of those bank accounts, they have to apply. So EACC knows about those bank accounts. They give us bank statements. Some of the other things that we do a lot of capacity building, where we train public officials, state officers. We train them on the provisions of Chapter 6. We give them advisories. And in addition, we also carry out investigations on ethical breaches. Some of those ethical breaches are things like irregular recruitment, falsification of records, public officers holding offices in political parties, some of them engaging in conflict of interest, and some of those we have investigated and forwarded their files to DPP. Some of them have been prosecuted, there are cases before court, but unfortunately, some of the cases are taking long in court. We have cases of politicians whom we investigated for having fake academic papers. They went to court, we were stopped, and the cases have not been concluded, and they have concluded they are 5 years. Now they are fined for the other 5 years. So there are those challenges. So those are some of the things that we do to provide information on integrity of officers, to train them, and also to help them develop those codes of conduct. Those are some, and then the capacity building.
Okay, I don't know, when you mentioned about the list, is it IBC giving you the list of the
candidates that have been cleared by parties to vie? Yes.
And then now you give them a report.
We give them a report. We look at what we have. You remember even in the statement of DPP, he mentioned about citizens making information also based on the people that EACC has mentioned. So because we have a data, because most of the corruption related cases, economic crimes and ethical conduct are reported to EACC. There are some that we have completed investigation, they are in court. Some officials have been convicted, some are at advanced stage. So once we get that list, we will be able to tell IEBC, this is what we have against each candidate. And then now we can, they can now also take it up and do whatever they can do within the law.
Are you going to publish the list? How will I know as a Mwananchi that my member of whatever nominated, my person cleared to vie for, say, an MCA or an MP seat is in the list for EACC? Will you publish it?
The list will be given to IEBC, but I think there are also ongoing talks on whether that list can be published or it will be made public when it will be forwarded to IEBC.
Because I'd imagine if say the DPP said that we citizens need to make informed decision based on the list on the EACC, then I need to be able to see who is on the list.
Yes, and what I can also add, and it's information that is in public domain, people who have been charged in court or who have been investigated, if you go to the website of EACC and see the annual reports for the last almost over 15 years, you will be able to see the people who are actually currently facing charges in court. You also see some that have been investigated through our quarterly reports. But there are also those talks that when the list will be ready, it it will be shared with the
Just
IEBC.
I think I would say it
Yes.
would make sense for it to be published.
Yes.
Alongside the one for NCIC.
Yes.
For the list of shame.
Yes.
And then now let's see what the citizens can do about it.
Yes.
But again, it feels like I was asking Mr. Mule, that the laws are not favoring me, Anita Wananchi. Because if I apply for a job right now and I'm told to get an ESCC clearance, if you don't clear me, I will not be considered for the job.
Yes.
But now, my member of parliament, my governor, whoever is running, you will not clear him as ESCC,
yes,
but he will still continue
yes,
to get the job for 5 years.
Yes. And that is where the role of the citizen comes in, because why it is effective in appointive positions is because employers, when they get this information about the credibility or the lack of integrity of these candidates, they take them very seriously.
Yes.
Because they know if we appoint this person and we have been told that he had engaged in unethical conduct or corruption in another organization, there is nothing good we'll expect.
Yes.
But now when it comes to the Wananchi, because that law has been put there in section 99, and it's specifically for elective positions, that unless you have exhausted all the appeal procedures, that is where the problem is. And the message we have for the citizens is also to take this voting very, very seriously, just the way the employers will take when they are given names of candidates. Because you are employing this person. You are an employer. You are employing this person for the next 5 years to be your governor. He will be the one to manage the resources. And if you do not elect the right person, then chances are that the resources will be plundered. They will not lead to service delivery in your constituency, in your ward, or in your county. So that is the message we have to them, that take it as seriously as possible. This is a person that you are hiring to manage your resources and to ensure that you get good services.
Okay.
Yes.
Mr. Mule, I want to ask you a common street question. In whose hands are we safe?
We are safe in the hands of the citizens. And I will start here. Sovereign power of the Republic belongs to the citizens. It is exercised by the citizens through the secret ballot. So as you enter the secret ballot, think of this. If it swims like a duck, it looks like a duck,
it is a duck.
It quacks like a duck, it is a duck. If the person you want to elect has plundered your resources, you don't have roads, you don't have clean water, you don't have electricity, you don't have health facilities, or the health facilities do not have medical facilities, you don't elect persons. We are safe in the hands of the citizens, because that is where sovereign power rests. That is what I would say.
And if I may just add, even as we consider the issue of publishing the lists, some of these people who have been charged in court have actually engaged in corruption in their constituency, in their county, and actually the electorate there know them, because they have seen them being taken to court. They know they're actually facing corruption charges, and at times, I don't know whether they are not aware of the power they have. They just end up electing the same people and probably expecting
repeating the same cycle and expecting
the same cycle. So the message we have for them is, you already know your member of parliament is facing corruption charges. Your governor, or maybe now the governor that is almost serving until the end of August, is actually in court. Why would you want to go back and elect that person? Do you think he's going to change? So the issue is for the citizen to take that sovereign power, the ballot, to ensure that the ultimate vetting is at the ballot box. Because like Mr. Mule says, though the constitution will say you've not exhausted the appeal procedures, but there is no bar. When you are voting,
nothing stops you.
Nothing stops you. If you say that I'm not voting this person because I know in the past he is not done his work with integrity. He has actually plundered the resources that were given to my county or to my constituency. We do not have good roads, we do not have water, and yet the government avails the money. I'm not going to vote for this person. But if they don't do that, then chances are that these people will still continue to do the same. Now, the good thing is, even after August, as people complain that probably the DPP and the law enforcement agencies are not going to do anything in the next 3 months. But even immediately after election, these people, if you elect corrupt leaders, they will still be investigated and they will be taken to court. Yes, and there have been some improvements that have been done in the past, which were not there before. You know, under the Anti-Corruption and Economic Crimes Act, when a public official is charged before court, they are supposed to be suspended on half pay until the case is determined.
Is that on? Does it happen?
It is on. But now, it does not apply to elected positions, which is also the way the law was crafted. It specifically says it will not apply to an office if the constitution says how the person should be removed. Yeah. But what has happened in the last, I think, 2 to 3 years, is that the office of the ODPP, the prosecutors in court, have actually been urging the magistrates that even for the governors that have been charged, they should not actually transact business in their offices, because they will interfere with evidence, they will interfere with witnesses, and in a way that has helped, because the citizens are actually seeing, so my governor cannot come to office because he has been charged in court.
Do we see it as citizens?
We should see
but
it as citizens. But
we are not seeing it.
Yes, we should see it.
And even Mr. Mule, still on this matter of the citizen and their role, when the statement came out and said that it's now your turn, people called it escapist, defeatist, like now, mmetuachia nyinyi mmeenda. Is it really escapist?
No, we just want not to be seen to be politicizing cases or taking decisions based on our suspects' political side.
Affiliations.
We are doing our work. We are not running away from our work, and work is going on. Prosecutions are going on, decisions are being made, people are being prosecuted.
But can you really totally detach the fight against corruption and politics? Is it totally detachable?
It is not totally detachable.
Yeah.
There is always some aspect of a nexus.
Yes.
But the office of the DPP is independent of any political implications.
Yes.
We make our decisions independently, not based on any political affiliation of any suspect or the victim or whatever other manner.
The lion still roars, because somebody said the lion, the lion still roars, right? So how else is ODPP preparing for the elections? Because the DPP said that you're prioritizing election-related offenses. So how else is ODPP preparing for the elections?
For election-related offenses,
yes.
First of all, in each county, we have at least 2 prosecutors, including the head of each county, who have been trained specifically for election-related offenses. So through the country is a total of about 200 prosecutors specifically trained. We are also working with other agencies, the NCIC, the DCI, for purposes of mapping out areas where violence or election-related offenses are likely to be committed. We have mapped out and we are on the lookout. We are having what we call prosecutor guided investigations with investigators, whether investigators from NCIC or the DCI, so that as they collect evidence, it is evidence which will be admissible in court, so that we can succeed. And then, of course, this will ensure completeness of the files, and that it will also ensure that the prosecutor and the investigating officer are together, such that this evidence is properly packaged and presented before court.
So there are 200 prosecutors.
200 prosecutors, yeah. We are also going to give out a toll-free number to report any election-related malpractices for any member of the public to report toll-free anytime for free.
But then still on the prosecution of these offenses, does it mean, is the law the same? Even if you prosecute me for any election-related offense, until I am convicted, I mean, everything continues.
Everything continues until you are convicted.
Are there plans?
Convicted?
Yes.
And exhausted.
All
appeals. And some of these appeals might have constitutional issues and go out to the Supreme Court. Some will end up at the Court of Appeal, ideally, but if there are constitutional issues, it will end up to the Supreme Court.
So what what can be done? I'm feeling a bit defeated as a citizen. I'm feeling a bit exposed, because if then this will not stop them from running, then what do I do?
I think two things. One is to identify those gaps for future changes in the law.
Yes.
Maybe to get interpretations from the courts. And I think there have been parties that have been going to court. I think I remember it must have been Kenya National Human Rights Commission that went to court, Supreme Court, seeking interpretation of integrity thresholds. But I think the case was returned to the High Court, and it hasn't been determined. So those are areas to flag for, to see later how it can be changed if we are to realize the full ends of Chapter 6. But for now, the responsibility now shifts to the citizens. That, for now, for this August, they just need to look at the leaders who are presenting themselves, listen to them, they know their profile, use the information that is available, and make informed decisions for their own benefit.
Is it a culture problem? Why would I see that you have mismanaged my resources and I still run to defend you?
I think it's something that has accumulated over time. That sometimes the electorate do not realize the powers that they have. They get, these leaders coming to, I don't know whether to say convince or to confuse them.
Confuse?
Because even as EACC, whenever we carry out investigations, there were certain governors that when we called them for statement recording and interviewing, they come with all sorts of people coming to, to sing outside there until we are not able to work.
It's a presidential escort.
Yes, coming with motorbikes that this is our thief. But the moment they realize, that what law enforcement and what the law intends to do is for their own good. I think that is the time now they will realize that they need to elect the right people. But we can also, some of them may also not have the information. And as EACC together, of course, with other agencies, we plan for civic education so that we can give them information about, electing leaders of integrity, what powers do they have. We intend to do that. As EACC, one of the other things that we intend to do as we move towards election is to monitor the use of public resources during this electioneering period, because there could be instances of public officials or those vying actually using public resources to campaign, which is against the law. Some of them actually may be outright theft of resources.
But we are still seeing them do that.
To campaign. We also want to monitor issues of bribery together with IEBC so that those ones are investigated. If we have sufficient evidence, then we can present the files to
the DPP
for them to be prosecuted.
Okay.
Yes.
We are still seeing them using public resources. I think we started seeing them a while back. I hope they are under investigation without naming anyone, any side.
Those are issues that are currently under scrutiny and under focus.
Okay.
To identify and to get evidence that can now be put together so that action can be taken against them.
Okay.
Yes.
Mr. Mulia, there's the ASECA, the Anti-Corruption and Economic Crimes Act, and there's the Chapter 6. So how do they complement each other, if at all? Do they complement each other, first of all?
Sure, they complement each other. Chapter 6, as I said from the beginning, provides the guiding principles. And then now it also provides for the enactment of the legislation, which has now been enacted, the Leadership and Integrity Act, the codes of conduct for different aspects of state and public officers, which they have to sign, like members of political parties and the like. So they complement each other. And then, of course, Chapter 6 does not create any offenses, but the offenses are now created in the legislation which is now enacted, and then the ODPP now implements, and the EACC implements by investigating. After investigations, they bring the investigation files to us, and then we take
prosecute
for prosecution. That is the complementary nature of
Maybe just to add on that, the Anti-Corruption and Economic Crimes Act, which we had before from 2003, it was very clear on offenses, corruption offenses, like payment for goods not supplied, abuse of office, conflict of interest, deceiving principal. There were those very, very clear offenses. But when it came to 2010, I think what we were trying to do as a country in introducing Chapter 6 was to try and regulate behavior of people.
Yes.
By telling them that you need to follow, these are the guiding principles. Whenever you want to employ, please don't just go and pick somebody. Look at integrity, personal integrity.
And that has worked.
Look at suitability,
yes.
Free and fair election. Whenever you make decisions, make sure that you are guided by objectivity. Make sure you are accountable. You now see even senior public officials being called by Parliament to come and explain what they do. That is accountability to the people. So Chapter 6 was actually to come and strengthen. We had all these offenses. Don't do this, don't do this. This is an offense. But we are also now trying to enhance, just like Mr. Mulia said.
Can you regulate values? Can you regulate, integrity?
Those guiding principles, like the 5 that he had mentioned,
yes.
Including discipline in service, accountability, selfless service, avoiding conflict of interest, they are trying to bring you closer to being a person of integrity, to do things the way they should be done. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So in terms of sensitization, we have 3 months to the elections. How are you getting the public to understand their role? And actually, even before we get to that, what exactly is the role of the citizen? According to the Constitution, what does it say I can do as a citizen? What is my power? Because it looks like we don't know what our role is, our power is.
Yes. Citizens have the sovereign power.
Yes.
The reason why we have election every 5 years is because the power belongs to the people. Otherwise, if it were not the case, then these elected leaders could even serve for 10 years, 10, 15, just agree among themselves, I'll take this position. But the law does not allow them. The power belongs to the people.
So we understand that,
yes.
as far as democracy is concerned.
Yes.
We in fact, you cannot even delay the election.
Yes.
Because tutapiga kelele mali yetu.
Yes.
But then why do we get it wrong at the point of casting the ballot and electing tainted leaders?
I think sometimes we get it wrong because there are instances. This country has a history. There are certain communities, for example, that are made up of even clans.
Yeah.
And once candidates come out to say that I'm vying for this position, you'll find probably a specific clan saying that this is our candidate and we have to support that candidate without looking at the bigger picture. Because once this person, for example, gets the position, they are supposed to manage resources for all.
Yes.
If they mismanage, it is all the people to suffer. So I think the role, what we'll be doing as going forward is to educate the citizens that they need to make the right choices. Because if they don't, then there are dire consequences. They need to look at the person. They need to look at their past. Some of them have served before.
Yes.
If they have done well, there'll be no problem in re-electing them. But if there are people whom you know actually did not do as per your expectation, or some of them have actually plundered and they are before called, that is now when you need to make that decision to vet out that candidate at the ballot.
Yeah, it looks like it is selective amnesia when it comes.
And I would also add maybe peer influence, following masses without any reasoning.
Yes.
We are just following the masses, what everybody else is doing, we are just doing it for the sake of it. And I'll give the example of professional bodies and trade unions. We have seen them fought out. Leaders who are deemed not to have integrity or professionalism, or not good leaders for that matter. They have been voted out by professional bodies, I will not name them, and trade unions. So if now this could be applied to the citizens in electing persons in the national positions, Kenya would be very far.
Would be different.
Yes, and the message we want to give to Kenyans is that you look at Kenya or your county or your constituency as a company. You are the shareholder for that company and you want to employ the managers. What type of managers will you employ? Will it be the ones that will run this company to profitability to ensure that you get dividends and you get services, or you are going to elect some who are actually going to cripple that company to make sure that you don't get any service? Yes.
So think like a shareholder.
Think like a shareholder and you have the power to hire the right person.
And fire the wrong person.
And fire the wrong person. Yes.
Okay, looks like we really need to really sensitize people about that. There's a question about prosecution of corruption cases.
Yeah.
First of all, how long does it take to investigate a corruption case? And then how long should it take, ideally, for prosecution? Because somebody would say that tumekuwa hapa na watu all along, really, why do you want to do this at this time of the elections? Is it really deliberate? Is it just that the process has imewapata tu up? What is it? How long does it take to investigate a corruption case?
To investigate corruption cases, it differs. There are cases that are very complex. There are cases that you can investigate within a very short time, complete them, and forward the files to the DPP.
Yeah.
But what people need to understand, like I'll talk from the investigation point of view. Investigation is not something, for example, at EACC, we will sit and complete it at our offices.
Yeah.
You need to deal with outsiders. If you are investigating a matter involving an organization A, you need to get all those people to come for interview and statement recording. You need to get documents. You also need to get documents from other organizations. So at times there are some that might take 3 months, some might even take 1 month. There are even some that can take even 1 year. There are even cases where you need to get evidence from international jurisdictions. You cannot just, board a plane and go and get the evidence. You need to go through the legal channels, the mutual legal assistance of that country to get that evidence. So it differs.
Okay.
It differs on complexity of that case.
Yeah.
But probably Mr. Mule will talk about the prosecution.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now you've got the file from the SEC.
Yes.
Yeah, we have got the file from the SEC. Making the decision will take, ideally will take about 14 days.
Yeah.
That is what our performance contract says. But now prosecution, there are very many factors. And ideally, and in accordance with the law, once a magistrate starts the prosecution of an anti-corruption case, they are supposed to do it on a day-to-day basis until conclusion. That is the legal profession. Yeah. That is the ideal situation. That's the way it should be. But this is not possible for very many factors. One, there are very many cases which the court is handling. So you might not leave out all these and abandon all these cases and just proceed with this one. All these other people, all these other cases have got victims. They also need justice. Magistrates might be transferred. Prosecutors might be transferred. Witnesses might not be available. The defense counsel might apply for adjournment for one reason or the other. There might be evidence which is yet to be received, maybe from abroad, which has to be obtained through what we call mutual legal assistance, and the like. And adjournments can be caused by either of the three parties. It can be caused by the defense counsel, that is the advocate for the accused person, can be caused by the court or the prosecutor. Some of the reasons for adjournment are plausible, they are explainable, and though they have to be granted. Some others are not plausible and may not be granted because things like illness, those ones of course are understandable. The prosecutor can be sick, the witness can be sick, even the judicial officer can be sick. So those are some of the things. So ideally we can do day to day, but we are trying. And then also the complexity of the matter, the number of witnesses. If you have 10 witnesses, you can call them within maybe 10 days, but you might not get the 10 days.
It's spread across. It's
spread across maybe 6 months. So, and we have cases which have taken less than 6 months, cases which have taken 2 months. The case we have talked about, Munyeli, started in around 2018 somewhere.
Wow. 2018?
And it is not concluded. That's just one stage. Now we are going to the defense stage. It has no judgment yet. So not now yet. We are going for his side now. And
a ruling can be made, and then he appeals.
He will not appeal this one.
No, not this one.
The other, yes. He will appeal to the High Court.
If
he is convicted, he will appeal to the High Court.
He's still vying. He may be elected.
He
may be in government.
And
still fighting this case.
Fighting. But if he is convicted now, that might change things.
It might change things.
Yes.
Okay. Do you foresee a future where we actually have no corrupt leaders in power? Are you optimistic like that?
Personally, I'm optimistic. If, as citizens, when we go to that ballot, we choose the right leaders. That is one. And then we continue to advocate for national ethos, where this is we say this is a corrupt-free country, like another country like Switzerland, where corruption is almost zero, and such other countries. Right? So there is hope. I am optimistic.
Maybe what I can add, because it's mentioned, you've asked whether we will totally eradicate corruption. Transparency International every year releases a ranking of countries. There's something called Corruption Perception Index, CPI. If you look at it, the top 3 countries are usually the Scandinavian. You have New Zealand, Sweden, and all those. But they are not at 100%. They normally have like 87% in that corruption perception index. So if you have 87%, it means the level of corruption is at 13%. So they lead. If you come to Africa, I think the country that is almost doing well is Botswana, at around number 40. As Kenya, we are usually at around number 124 out of 108. 3 years ago, we really improved. We came from number 144 to 124. I think we moved 20 positions. Unfortunately, last year we went back 3 points down. So I think the idea is for the institutions to work hard the way they are working, for the citizens to contribute their part to ensure that we reduce corruption levels to minimum levels.
Do you know why we improved? And do you know why we
Yes. Some of the reasons that were attributed to that improvement, I think from 2018 to 2020, first of all, and those are possible, they may not be the gospel truth, but possible reasons that even it's been written, that there were changes in the headship of the law enforcement agencies. There was the new DPP, there was the new head of EACC, there was the new head of DCI. That's number 1. Number 2, high-level corruption cases were taken to court. Governors were taken to court, they were prosecuted. And also in terms of asset tracing and recovery, that was also being done. And also generally there was very good political will. You know, you have top people in government coming out to say that we should fight corruption, nobody should be spared. That is attributed to those reasons. But it needs to be maintained.
All right. Are you optimistic that one day we'll have ethical leaders in this country, running our country?
Yes, it is possible. It's only for us citizens to play our role, and for those charged, those who are given those positions. If you look at Article 73, the one that he had quoted, it actually says that the authority that is given to you as a state officer is the responsibility to serve the people, not the power to rule them. So the moment we have people who are in office who can buy to that principle, that I've been given this position to serve the people but not to enrich myself. But again, that has to go with sanctions. Those who do not do that, whenever they commit those crimes, they have to be taken to court. And we pray that our courts, there's a lot of improvement, but we pray that some of these cases will be concluded within a year, so that even if you appeal, then within the other 6 months, the appeal is either dismissed or you are found to be guilty. So that now even that article that says you have exhausted all the appeal procedures will have been dealt with.
All right. I'll just go to social and see what people are saying. Thank you, Francis Makori. He says, as a shareholder in Kenya, the power to fire the corrupt are indeed in my hands as a voter. You've got a student there.
Thank you.
Munene Newton says, my take home, hire the right person and fire the wrong person at the ballot.
That's what we said.
And then Shami, or is it Shumi Madikizela, says, good elaboration on the power of citizens, Mr. Lol Koloi. And then Munene Newton says, great discourse. Leandrian Hart says, the Kenyan law is a scam on matters, corruption, and elective positions. The commission has been cunningly incapacitated, and the problem is not EACC per se, but the lawmakers. Is that true?
Very true.
Very
true.
We require law reform, especially Section 62 of the ASECA, which says an elected person should not step aside upon being charged.
Yeah.
Because you cannot have that person being called a state officer.
Yes.
But then when you go to criminal prosecution,
Yes.
you give him some privileges.
Yes.
It doesn't
Yes.
make sense. He's still a state officer.
Yeah.
He's still a state officer. He
Yeah.
should be suspended just like any other public officer.
Yes.
Okay.
And the office of the ODPP has done well in that aspect,
Yeah.
just by insisting, asking magistrates that these people should
yes.
not go to the offices. That has been very, very helpful.
Yeah.
Yes.
Have they appealed that as well? The people have been told not to go to.
They have appealed, but
they have not succeeded.
They have not succeeded.
They have not succeeded.
Appealed, and they have not succeeded.
Yes.
Okay. So somebody, Afa Opili says, and it doesn't look very positive. Let me just open it up. When history will be written, the action of the DPP will be viewed as selective prosecution in favor of the corrupt political elites. The fight against corruption and unethical conduct needs a lot of courage. What do you tell Afa, Mr. Mula?
Well,
have you just been giving free pass to the political elites as an institution?
no, I'll still ask for an example of a case where there is sufficient evidence.
Yes.
And this person has not been taken to court.
Yes.
Just one. And you see, some evidence might be evidence being rushed out by the media. Sanchez Governor Peter has stolen money.
Yes.
Governor Peter has built an empire with the stolen money or public resources.
Yeah.
That is just that. Where is the evidence?
Yeah.
We need evidence which is admissible in court, which is relevant, and which establishes a particular case, and we'll take it to court.
Okay.
Yeah.
Arthur is challenging the anasema Simba haingurumi. He says the fight against corruption and unethical conduct needs a lot of courage.
The conviction rate for the year 2020, 2021, and we have the cases and we have documented them in a report, is 93.3%. Yes.
Wow.
Conviction rate.
Okay.
That is conviction rate. We might have acquittals here and there, for one reason or the other, but that conviction rate tells you something.
Yeah. Okay.
And you also have examples of high-profile convictions, and more are coming. Yeah.
Okay. David Wanjala says the weakness in the law, especially as regards to elective position, needs to be rectified urgently. I think we're getting the point finally, right?
Yeah. Yes, and it's important.
It's important.
Yeah.
Yes, it's important because eventually Kenyans will get disappointed because most of them, even as EACC, we get this information that you are the ones who are clearing candidates.
Yes.
And yet, like I had mentioned, even the law, the Leadership and Integrity Act, was deliberately, the way it was done, that for elective positions, the declaration will be made to IEBC.
Yeah.
But to most Kenyans out there, they are saying, why has EACC or ODPP
clearing these people? Yeah.
The only thing that we need to understand is that law enforcement agencies are also supposed to follow the law.
Yes.
Nobody is above the law. So if the law says you cannot do A, actually that is one of the guiding principles also of leadership in the courts, that everybody is supposed to follow the law.
Yeah.
Yes. So if the law does not give you power to bar somebody, then there's
you
nothing,
can't go above it.
You can't go above it.
Yeah.
But discussions can be made on what needs to be changed. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Philip Kagusha says the best vetting is at the ballot. And then Alan Ethan says, great discourse, Salol Koloi. You have a fan club. You listen to the ground, Mr. Koloi.